Welcome back, everybody, to the NARPM podcast. And as promised, I have Brian Hughes, co-founder, CEO of BizDev Mastermind. Brian, thanks so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Pete. Excited to talk to you about all things business development.
Well, Brian, I'm excited to get you on here because you and I we've been buds for quite some time, and you just did the webinar for VPM. I just did some speaking at your event, so we've known each other pretty good now, and we use you for my new company, Texas Lone Star Property Management, where Mosin runs the show there, and he was using you for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think we had to pause you because you got so busy, and we had to turn. Now we're going to turn you back on.
Yeah.
So tell the folks that don't know what Biz Dev Mastermind is. Tell them what it is and how'd you come up with actually creating this company.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we are, we're a company that helps property management companies, single family property management companies to be specific, helps them hire and train their business development managers, their business development representatives, their salespeople ultimately. And so, that's really what we do is help recruit some, high performing salespeople, and then, bring them to a property management company who's looking to grow. So our clients find us looking to hire their first, second, third, fifth business development manager, or they're looking to not necessarily change their staff or add anyone, but they're looking to just find more lead generation opportunities and ultimately add more doors. Why we started the company, I myself was a business development manager, and that's actually how I met you. I don't know if you remember, but Brad brought me out to one of you guys' events and
That's right.
met you there. And I remember when I first got started, he even sent me some of your sales training materials back in 2015 when I'm like first couple of days to read over. But so yeah, known you a while. But we started it. I started off as a business development manager there, and we grew really quickly. In my first years at BDM, we brought on 365 doors. Year after that, we brought on another 400 or so. Year after that, we brought on 420 some. So we grew really quickly, and Brad, the owner broker of Rentworks Larson Properties, was going to conferences and things like that, and he's sharing the numbers and letting everyone know what we're doing. And they're asking him, what are you guys doing to grow so quickly? And so we thought, hey, maybe we have a good formula here, and took what we knew and created this company, BizDev Mastermind, and that's what we started in 2020.
Okay, so you started this business
Yeah.
and you work with property managers, mainly single family.
Mm.
Now, let's say I'm just starting out and I
Yeah.
really don't have the funds or I'm too nervous to have a BDM.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that I can do as the owner operator, maybe before I actually am ready to hire a BDM? Like, what are some of the things I should like have like a little checklist of things that I should do prior to hiring a BDM?
Sure. Yeah, there's really a lot, and we do work with quite a few clients who are in that stage, maybe managing 100, 200 units, and not quite ready to hire a BDM, like you mentioned. So, some of the basics or some of the most tried and true methods even are, realtor referrals. So, reaching out to realtors in your area and letting them know who you are and what you do. And if you're listening to this podcast, you probably heard that before. And you might think like, well, everyone's doing that. It's probably so saturated. These realtors probably get calls all the time. Well, I can tell you they don't. And, so you just doing that, will lead to, your first referrals, first signups and things like that. So realtor referrals is a big one. And reaching out to the agents, letting them know you can be a resource and, not just necessarily asking for referrals, but explaining, here's what we can do for you. So, that's one of the methods or one of the kind of ways to get you to that point where you have enough doors to then maybe hire someone to take that over. Some other examples or opportunities are social media. There's bigger pockets. There's LinkedIn. There's Facebook and
Meetup
Facebook.
groups.
Exactly, the groups and there's people there's in every city. There's San Antonio real estate investors. There's Milwaukee real estate investors. Name the city, and those groups exist. So that's
Where you
great.
come out on purchasing lists, like an eviction list or FSBO list or something like that.
Yeah, I think that definitely has some value. The key is what is your goal with that list and what are your expectations? I think if your expectation is to buy a list of rental property owners, call them all and use that to build your book of business, I think before you built your book of business, you will have pulled out all of your hair and you will, be wanting to quit and throw the phone across the room. So, my advice with the list is get it and, get a large list as you can and do kind of an initial filter. And what I mean by that is put together an email drip campaign. Send out a few emails to this list of rental property owners that you've purchased and see who's opening those emails, who's clicking on those links, and use that as your filter to then maybe circle back and call some of those people or take a second action with them.
Now, if I'm okay, so let's say I'm ready to hire a BDM. You gave me all these ideas. I'm like, I just realized I don't have time for any of this stuff,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now, what should I do to prepare like for a BDM? Do I need like a commission schedule? Do I need like, do I need to have like an hourly schedule? Do I need to know what the hiring process looks like? So talk a little bit about like the foundation before actually, because I don't even know how to hire a BDM, what to look for.
Sure.
What are some
Absolutely.
things there?
Yeah, good point. And, for our clients, that's really where we come in and what we do is essentially handle that whole process. But if you're doing it on your own or, just you want to be prepared, for when that time comes, some things you want to do is you do want to have a sales process in place, or at the very least have a CRM. And, Lead Simple, HubSpot, there's some others out there. There's the Go High Level. There's dozens and dozens of CRMs that are out there. But choose one that works for you, and at the very least, start putting your leads in there. It sounds simple, and you might think, well, I'll only have, two leads a week or one lead a week, or even less maybe. But over time, those add up. And so when you do hire a BDM down the road, and you've been in business 2 or 3 years, you have a list of 100, 200, maybe more leads that maybe didn't close that they can start with. So, when you're just starting out, even though you might think it's not really worth it to save these leads, I'm not going to be able to close them or they hired someone else, keep that keep that somewhere, whether it's a CRM or don't use an Excel sheet, use a CRM, but keep it somewhere nonetheless.
Okay, so have a CRM, have a sales process.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about a sales process is because marketing is a different process than sales.
Mhm.
CRM, we could send out drip campaigns. That's marketing.
Mhm.
Phone rings,
Mhm.
or I'm going on an appointment. So talk a
Mhm.
little bit about like a sales process. Give me, I know, look, there's lots of steps and I know you have to touch somebody 7 to 12 times before they say yes, but just kind of give like an example of a sales process step.
Absolutely. And yeah, we really break this down for our clients and want to kind of set it in a 1, 2, 3 type of scenario. So, a call comes in, goal number one, get back to them as quickly as possible. That
I
is
heard it's
something
something like 7 minutes or something like that. If you don't get back to them, they're gone. Is it even, is it
yeah, within 5 minutes, your chance of closing them drops in half. So if you wait that sixth minute, your chance of closing is now 50% what it was if you call in the first 5 minutes.
even if they call after hours, like on like Saturday night at 10 o'clock, like same deal?
My understanding is that's during normal business hours.
Okay. All right.
So I wouldn't, yeah, not necessarily calling back at midnight or something like that, but normal business hours, that call comes
Yeah.
in. Back
Wow.
to
Less than 5 minutes. That's good. Right there is the price of this the download right there. All right. So
absolutely.
you got to call them back. So you got to get back to them.
Yeah.
Do you recommend that however they contact you, you contact them that way, the same way, like if they email you, email, or do you email, you pick up the phone?
I would always pick up the phone. So give them a call first because you, as the salesperson, it gives you the best chance of closing the business if you're going to have that conversation with them. So that's goal number one. See if you get them on the phone. But if they don't answer, also send them a text and also send them an email. So give them the option on how they want to respond to you. And even more in that text message, in that email, include a Calendly link or some other type of scheduling app. So they can, get your text message, click the link and schedule a meeting with you, whenever it's convenient for them.
Now, one of the things that we did at Empire that worked really well, but I don't know if it just worked well in our environment or not.
Mhm.
We had our salespeople, we actually created a video. I think it was like 15 to 20 minutes long. So it was not a 3 minute video. And the
Sure.
video explained everything that we do, the whole PMA and everything.
Mhm.
And my salespeople, I have one salesperson, she would not talk to anybody unless they watched the whole video. The crazy thing was, once they watched the video, they didn't have any questions. That was really it. And
Sure.
she had a pretty high closing rate. Uh, what are your thoughts on that? Did we do something
Yeah.
kind of it just worked for us, but not really the smartest thing because of this the length of it, or
I think it can work, and I think that's definitely a good way to kind of get your information out there. The thing I would be hesitant of is, as a salesperson, you don't ever want to tell your prospects no, or as little as possible. So saying no, I'm not going to give the information until you watch this video. I could see that turning some people off, but nonetheless, if it works, it works, and that is something that we certainly do recommend is creating a video presentation that gives an overview of what you do. And yeah, we do include it in a lot of our emails that are going out to clients. So if someone is, midnight or whenever, just sitting going through emails, they can click that link, watch that video, and it does answer all their questions. So definitely good tool. Maybe not force them to watch it, but hey, if it worked for her, it worked.
it worked for her?
Yeah.
Where do you come out on having your BDMs meet clients at a property?
Yeah, great question. I was actually just on a group meeting with a group of BDMs, and we were looking at the Lead Simple survey that they had done recently, the research they put out. And one of the things I noticed was the fifth most common deciding factor on what PM they're going to hire is if they will meet in person. So the question I'm given, paraphrasing this question, but the question was essentially, what are the top three factors you consider when hiring a property manager? And 19% of the respondents said meeting in person. So, one in five people who are calling you, if you don't meet in person, they're, likely not gonna work with you. So that stat alone kind of stood out to me. But beyond that, meeting in person gives you, the best chance of closing the business. And we've seen that with our BDMs time and time again. The ones who meet in person tend to, close a bit better.
Funny, when we started, we used to meet everybody in person, and then
Sure.
we got away from that. I don't recall if it hurt our closing, to be quite honest with you. I can't remember. I am sure that we did lose some business because of it, but it's a risk reward thing. If you're gonna lose a couple of people, every couple of months
Mhm.
versus 20%,
Mhm.
and then it's just like, well, if I can save money by not having to go to the property, and obviously, if you don't have a full-time BDM, then that's hard. So I'm
Absolutely.
guessing for a virtual BDM, you're starting to lean on no, they should be local because of this new data, or where'd you come before the data and where you come after the data?
Well, I already had, my own personal data as a BDM and then, working with clients reinforced that. So I've kind of been on the, let's meet in person train since the beginning. But I have seen examples where, the opposite is also true. Because, if you can meet in person, the next best thing is a Zoom meeting. But, not every market, not every person is going to be as, willing to do a Zoom meeting as others. So for example, we had a client in Seattle and Seattle kind of a more tech centric city and that kind of thing. I think that played a part, but nonetheless in Seattle it's really difficult to get around and it may take you an hour to get from one neighborhood to another. So this BDM did all Zoom presentations and he was really successful and still is. He's bringing on 20 25 units a month, never meeting in person, only doing Zoom. So if you can make it work, it's great, but you got to be in the right market, I think, and have a really good process for getting those Zoom meetings scheduled if you're not going to do in person.
Yeah, I guess my advice would be try it without, just
Mhm.
to because there's so much time that you save with the windshield time. I'm in Houston. Houston takes you an hour just to get to the other side of the city. So that's without traffic, let alone with traffic.
Would
I've always went that way,
yeah.
as far as not going to the property because we started there, then we didn't. But I can see, like, you got to be different. And if your differentiator is that we meet you at the property, that you
Mhm.
can close a lot of deals because not a lot of people do that anymore.
I would push back on that. It actually saves time because, the amount of follow-up you do to get a closing with people is a lot, and the people are calling in months in advance sometimes. And so, the you may spend, windshield time, 45 minutes getting out there, another hour meeting with them.
Yeah.
But if you're leaving with a signed contract or at least, a verbal agreement, that's going to actually save you time overall as opposed to following up with them who knows how many times, having who knows how phone conversations. So,
The
that's
other
kind
argument, the other argument for meeting is that somebody puts eyes on the house and you're not getting a rat's nest, so to speak,
Absolutely.
right? So
Absolutely.
that saves time. I will say that was one challenge we did have when we stopped going to properties.
Mhm.
We would take on a property that, Google Earth looks like it looks good, is standing there, and then you get in a property and it is, an S show. It's
Yes, yes.
a PG-13. It's an S show.
Absolutely.
And so then we'd have a very difficult time to get out of that contract.
Yeah,
All right.
absolutely.
So one of the questions that I hear the most when I'm at a NARPM convention is, do you use BDMs? And then, yeah, the next question is, how do you pay them?
Sure,
So,
absolutely.
so where do you come out? Do you come out on all commission or
Yeah.
a little bit of salary and then commission? And so where do you come out on it?
Yeah. So it kind of depends on what your goals are, but for the vast majority of companies, they're going to be better off with a salary plus commission.
Mhm.
Because for most companies, they're not hiring a BDM to just, hey, I got a ton of leads coming in. I just need you to close them. That's more a scenario where you might be able to get away with just a commission only type of employee. If you have, the leads coming in like clockwork and all you need is that person to close them. But for most companies, they say, hey, I need you to close the leads that I got coming in, and I also want you to help me generate some new ones. And if you're going to be asking a BDM to do that, you really need to have them on salary because you need to kind of, direct their efforts and make sure that they're doing what needs to be done to generate those leads. And, so because of those reasons, I'd say salary plus bonus is going to be best for most companies. And that's, what we help our clients put together also.
Now, the challenge that I've seen with a bonus is
Mhm.
like we're not selling high ticket items here, right?
Sure,
We're selling an exam, average is let's call it $200 a month in fees.
sure.
Okay. Um, do you bonus based on the yearly, like how much that brings in a year? Do you bonus just on like the month? Like how do you typically do a bonus?
Yeah, so our bonus structure is tiered. So it depends on what your goals are, how many units you have coming in, but just for some kind of rough numbers, let's say units number 1 through 7, you're getting X number per unit, say 250 just for a rough number. And then let's say units 7 through 15, you're getting a little bit of a higher bonus, say 350. And then every unit over 15, you're getting a little bit higher, say 450, for example. And so this keeps the BDM hungry to push every single month. Gives them a little bit of a kicker if they're getting really good numbers. And so that's kind of the way we structure it is an increasing and sliding scale each month.
Yeah, you don't want to give them like you don't want to pay them off on a house for like as long as the house is with you, you get a percentage, right? Because then all of a sudden they get fat and happy over time, and then
Good
they're
point.
making more money in the damn company. So
Yep.
you're saying, hey, cut it off the end of the month, and
Yeah.
the register and the counter restarts, so to speak.
Absolutely, absolutely, and yeah, you're totally right on the ongoing percentage. I've definitely heard of a couple companies doing that, and it's like you said, what happens is they get fat and happy, and they're not going after the new business. They're kind of relying on what they've signed on over the years, and it kind of naturally turns them into an account manager as opposed to a hunter. So yeah, each month it restarts. They have a monthly goal, and they're trying to push past it each month.
Now, in my mind, a BDM, I'm a big disc guy. If you guys are not familiar with disc, I highly recommend you go check it out. But there are lots of personality profile stuff out there. But in disc, a BDM is typically a high I, which means that they're people focused, they're super outgoing, they're not detailed, and they're not process focused.
Mhm.
So they do a great job of selling the sell or telling the tale numerous times with the same gleam in their eye. They're almost like comedians, right? They can say the same thing over and over and over, same inflection, all that stuff.
Sure.
And they're great at getting the deal, especially if they have some D in them. But ask them to maintain a CRM, ask them to do follow-ups, ask them to do CMAs, ask them to do, any kind of paperwork. It's like an act, even just keeping their calendar could be like an act of God. So
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
way we solved this at Empire was we actually hired virtual assistants that were high C's, CS's to be more precise, to be their assistant. So assistant BDMs. Now,
Mhm.
years ago, you and I had a we didn't see eye to eye on this.
Sure.
Where are you today on that? On having like a team?
Yeah, well, I think, yeah, I agree. I think that having someone who is more detail oriented, more process oriented to help is great. And I totally agree. A natural salesperson is not going to be as detail oriented, going to have a tougher time with the CRM and things like that. But I think the right salesperson is really, they're money motivated. They want to make as much as possible. And once you show them that these tools like the CRM and leaving notes after each call and all those things that they lead to more money, that they can kind of see the light and come around. And so that's kind of how we approach it. But if you have the ability to hire a remote team member to, help and keep those notes and do those things, that is fantastic. And when I was a BDM, I had a remote team member helping out, Martin, who was certainly, that and was certainly detail oriented. He would provide, the notes were 2 pages long on the owner's situation. So yeah, if you can get that
Yep.
situation, that's
They can get
certainly,
the PMA signed. They can get the
yeah,
CMA done. They can do all the comps and everything. So, yeah, I'm a
absolutely.
big fan. It helped us tremendously. Also, those folks are at the desk. So, guess what happens when the phone rings or the email dings?
Yeah,
I'm getting with them within 2 minutes,
absolutely.
let alone 5 or 7 or whatever it is. So,
Yep.
so
And
yeah,
sometimes they'd even book an in-person meeting, and call comes in, they go through the qualifying questions and then say, hey, you're moving in 2 months, everything else checks out. Let's schedule a time for our BDM to come out there and meet you. And they can even fill your calendar like that.
yeah, so our ultimate goal was that the salesperson didn't even have to do anything other than look at their calendar and go on appointments. And again, sometimes, very rarely, they would go to a house. Most of the
Mhm.
time, it was Zoom calls, and they would have all the information right there in the CRM. They would have the CMA, the PMA, all ready to go, and they would just have the call, and their job was literally just to sell. In our case, we had a whole marketing department, so they just got the leads. They didn't have to go and do any kind of marketing themselves.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great setup to have. And you hit on a lot of good points about what remote team members can do and how they can help. And not just for a BDM, like if you are an owner, a property manager business owner who says, hey, I'm not ready to hire a BDM, but you hire a remote team member to kind of help with some lead generation activities, help with the CRM, help with some things like that. You can kind of use that as an in-between from being ready, hey, I need some help on the sales side before you're quite ready to hire a BDM. It's a good kind of in between way to go.
That's a great point. That is a
Yeah,
great point. Hire the virtual team member to generate some leads first through social media or email marketing. Um,
exactly.
yep. Where One of the challenges that we had was sales versus operations. It always seemed to be like headbutting.
Yeah.
Do you help your clients smooth that over? Is that something that you've run into with I see you shaking your head. For those of you that are not listening and watching, he's shaking his head like vigorously. Tell me a little bit
Yes,
about
yes.
some of the challenges you've seen and what are some of the solutions?
Absolutely, yes. Tale as old as time, sales versus operations, for sure. So yes, certainly something I've run into training BDMs, and a lot of the kind of inflection points or times where that friction happens is when an owner signs up, so from the time they say, yep, let's sign the contract, they get it signed to, now handing that off to a property manager. I've seen that's most commonly the time where there's that kind of friction. And one of the ways that we kind of overcome it, well, as far as actually overcoming it, you got to bring everyone together. You got to talk through the process. But, once you're going through it, a couple of key points to keep in mind. As soon as that contract is signed, get back to them as quickly as possible. There's so many deals that are lost kind of in that in between. Hey, I signed the contract, but I haven't heard anyone in, 2 days. And
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
no, speed to deliver. Yeah.
yeah. One of the things we provide is an owner checklist. So the contract is signed, and either the BDM or a remote team member is calling the owner right after it's signed and going through an onboarding checklist. And it's things like, is the home vacant? Have you already had it professionally cleaned? Have you dropped off the keys? Do you have a home warranty? Confirming everything's correct. And so they're going through that questionnaire with the owner right after they've signed. And then they can even schedule a meeting with the property manager to make that introduction and kind of take it from there. So that's kind of one of the ways to smooth out that transition at least.
You know, Brian, when I was at Empire,
Hmm.
Steve, my business partner, was in sales and I was the operations guy.
Sure.
And we had the biggest fights over, he would bring on a piece of property that we just did not want to take. Um, what we had to do is we literally had meetings after meetings after meetings with everybody in the room. And the way we solved it was one, we finally determined what are the three things that can be changed on a PMA.
Mhm.
Nothing can hurt a PM company more than a redlined PMA,
Sure.
right? Because systematically we can't handle that. So we were able to modify three things on the PMA because we were able to modify those three things very easily in our PM software,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
So percentage, lease renewal percentage, late fee percentage. That was the three things they can negotiate on. Somebody wants an extra inspection where they don't pay for it, can't do that anymore. Because what happens ultimately is they get the second inspection and we charge them. And now they're really, really upset.
Yep.
So that was the first major challenge we had. The second major challenge we had was, what is a home that we would take? What is a property that we would take? And we actually had to really like you kind of know the A class stuff and you kind of know the D minus class stuff, right? But with the B and the C was all this gray area. And so we had to come up with like, here are the guidelines. These zip codes, we don't take it. We first
Sure.
did if it's under, you got to remember, this is years ago. If it's under $1,000, we wouldn't take it. And then
Yep.
what my salespeople would do is they would fudge a CMA and say, "Oh, this is $1,100 instead of like 950 in one of the roughest areas of Houston, just to
Sure.
get the deal because they want the commission." And then the operator, the manager, has to like handle this thing forever, and the salesperson come in, just collect their commission check and leave. Like the only time we saw him in the office, and so that caused a lot of friction. How do you tell your team, your clients, how to handle that stuff? Is it kind of similar what I did, or do you guys? Is there anything else that you can add?
Yeah, there is some, you hit on a lot of good points. Yeah, one is just saying, hey, below this rental price, check with me. Hey, if it's going to be below 1,200, if it's being below 1,500, depending on, what market you're in and what type of properties you're looking for, check with me. And that's one, quick and simple way to cover most of that. But, on the other side is really just instilling in your team that ultimately things like this will happen. There will be a property we take on that is just not going to fit our portfolio and we got to let them go. And operations kind of just has to be okay with that. And that's just kind of the nature of the game. But we'd rather have the opportunity with, all of these different clients than tell them up front, nah, we're not even going to try because that you get in the habit of turning away clients. And I've seen property managers who do that. They hear one thing that's nope, doesn't fit with us, on to the next. But there's only a limited number of times you can do that until you start turning away good clients, in my opinion. But those are kind of some of the things I would kind of hope or talk about.
Where do you come out on clawing back commissions?
Sure. Well, one of the things we'll recommend for clients is after you can do it one of two ways. Either say after it's leased, then that commission is settled, or you can say, okay, 90 days or set a day limit. I would say typically, or what's more fair coming from the sales background as well, is that, once it's leased, we consider that settled. Because if there's going to be something that goes on that leads them to cancel after the property's leased, it's nine times out of 10 an operations issue. So, you can do it that way or do it in 90 days. But, one of those two options usually suffices.
Got it. What is one question that I may have not asked that you're like, huh, I can't believe you didn't ask that? Or is there a nugget that you want before we hit our final commercial break and go to the lightning round? What's one piece of advice you give somebody or one question that's burning that you're like, yeah, this is you need to ask this, Pete.
One thing that came out and recently in a training session with one of our clients is, and they're managing about 300 units, a really small team. It's two owners and they do most of the legwork themselves. And they don't want to hire a BDM. They don't want to grow too much bigger, but they do want to add some doors. And working together, we kind of figured out that they are just too busy. to do a lot of organic lead generation, and they don't have 6 hours to go to an event or anything like that. But what they do have is an hour every single week where we meet, us, myself and them, and we do the things. We make the posts on social media, we reach out to realtors, we update our CRM, and we manage all of that. So just in an hour a week, we're able to generate leads for them. We're able to, move the ball forward. So even if you're thinking, I don't have a lot of time, I'm not sure if I can, I'm in a position to grow the company, just with an hour a week, you can make progress if you have the right process.
Sounds like another potential business income for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Sure thing.
All right, Brian, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. We'll be right back, everybody. All right, welcome back to the NARPM Podcast. Brian Hughes, you're in the lightning round. Are you ready, brother?
Oh man, I'm ready. Let's hit it.
All right. Let's see here. Do you guys actually use virtual assistants?
We do. Yeah, we actually just hired our first virtual assistant through your platform,
Oh,
VPN
sweet.
Solutions. Yes, and she's actually starting next week with us. So yeah, we're really excited about working with her. And hey, I used your company to do it, VPN Solutions. It was really simple. It was really easy. I don't even know if I've told you that yet.
I actually
So
didn't know. Did you go through the white glove, gold glove, or you did do it yourself?
I just did it myself, and
Ah,
put the
look at that.
list.
It's so easy. Even a Brian can do it.
Exactly, exactly. The resumes came in, and I took it from there. So yeah, it was really straightforward.
What is one piece of advice you'd give someone just starting out in the PM business?
One piece of advice just starting out. I would say don't buy leads. Don't spend a bunch of money buying Google ads and paying for lead generation services. Because as I mentioned in our talk together, just an hour a week, you can move the ball forward and getting new business and getting new clients.
And it's funny, but you have to be consistent on that 1 hour a week. Every
Yeah,
week you have to do it for an hour.
that is absolutely right, 100%.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Man, years ago I'd have said no, but now I say adamantly yes. It does.
Whoa.
Pepperoni, pineapple, jalapeno. Ooh, that is solid.
Yeah. Get me hungry.
Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite fast food restaurant? If you just had to have fast food.
I gotta say Chick-fil-A. It's always good, always hits.
Man, I would have thought you said Whataburger. Aren't you? You're kind of close to the headquarters over there, right? Corpus, San Antonio.
Well, I don't know if you knew, Pete, they actually got bought out by a Chicago company. So,
We're out. We're
I
out.
know,
Yeah.
I know.
Pretty
It's
soon they're gonna
unfortunate.
have what are they gonna have? What is
Chicago
it?
dog.
The deep dish pizza will be at
Oh
Whataburger.
man, I wouldn't be surprised.
What was your first job?
First job was Galloway Research, which is a market research company, and I just cold called people and said, "Hey, would you take 10 minutes to take a survey?" And yeah, had some fun with it, but it got pretty boring pretty quick.
Ah, all right. What is your ideal vacation?
Ideal vacation, somewhere adventurous. Let's go for a hike. Let's go for ATVs. Let's go on some jet skis. Anything like that on there.
I like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
If you could have dinner with anyone alive, who would it be?
Ooh, anyone alive.
Other than Brad Larson.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh man, that's a good one. Let's go. Um, Man, let's go Tim Duncan. I'm gonna go Tim Duncan.
Okay, Spurs guy. Got it.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. Um, what book are you currently reading, or what is a book that you've read that's impacted your business or your life?
I've read a couple, but to be honest, I'm not a huge reader. I'm more of a podcast listener.
All right,
And,
let's do that one. What's a
one
podcast you recommend to the folks?
it's kind of specific to my industry, but Consulting Success Podcast is one I'm listening to quite a bit. And some of the things you can apply is just having a framework, having a process. That's one of the biggest things I've taken away from it. And you can apply to any business, really.
What Disney character do you most associate with?
Oh man, let's see. Dang, these are good ones here. Disney character. Let's go Shrek. I'm gonna go Shrek.
All right, I like that one.
Yes, but I'm
All right,
much,
last
much better
one.
looking. All right.
At least you're not green.
Yeah,
All
yeah, exactly.
right, last one. You prefer dogs or cats?
Dogs.
You're a
Got a
dog guy.
nice dog named Biscuit.
Oh, I love, dude. I found a dog. on the street, I named him Biscuit because I knew that name would get him a home,
Adopt
and
it.
got him a home in a couple months. So I'm pretty
There you
sad
go.
about that.
Good
All
call.
right,
Yep.
Brian, if somebody wanted to reach out and utilize your services or pick your brain, how do they do that?
Yeah, just shoot me an email, Brian at bizdevmastermind.com. That's Brian with an I at bizdevmastermind.com.
And if you want to join NARPM, call them at 800-782-3452 or go to narpm.org. And if you are looking for an assistant BDM, we have plenty of them on the platform. We have over 38,000 people looking for work on the platform. We actually have training provided to you by Brian on
Nice.
how to hire on what a virtual assistant BDM does. So we have a course on what is it, assistant BDM course that Brian created for us. Go to vpmsolutions.com or email me direct at pete@vpmsolutions.com. Brian, thanks so much for being here today, buddy.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me anytime.